Video 6, annual leave. So this section covers carryover of annual leave, using annual leave whilst off long-term sick, pre-planned annual leave during long-term sickness, and sickness during annual leave. So, during periods of sickness, staff accrue both statutory and contractual annual leave. Any bank holidays that fall during a period of sickness absence are lost. So this is automatically deducted in health roster. So you don't need to do anything, it's automatically done. This works out as a fifth of their weekly contracted hours. So if someone is full-time, regardless what shifts they might work, it is 7.5 hours. So when employees return to work from sickness and there is not enough time to use up their leave, managers must plan out when their leave can be taken with the employee. This may include extending phased return to work periods. Staff cannot request to use annual leave instead of sickness. All sickness must be recorded. This is important because if you grant annual leave or any other leave instead of sick, it could be masking a health problem. Say, for example, an employee has had repeated episodes of sickness in relation to gastro problems. They may have an undiagnosed condition that they may not be aware of. So by allowing them to take other leave instead of sick may prevent them finding out they've got an issue. By recording the sickness accurately, you can help them identify an underlying problem and prevent further sickness absence. Carryover of annual leave. So, when employees have not had the opportunity to take all of their annual leave during that current leave year because of long-term sickness, they can carry over some of their remaining annual leave. And they have up to 18 months to use that. So the 18-month period always starts from the next leave year. So it's always the 1st of April and it'll always end on the 30th of September. This is for normal carryover of leave though. So it is only a statutory amount of leave that can be carried over, and this doesn't include bank holidays. So it's 20 days for full-time staff, which is 4 weeks of sickness. So this in total is 150 hours that can be carried over, obviously prorated for part-time staff. But this doesn't include bank holidays, and you must deduct any leave they've already used in that year. To calculate an employee's carryover amount, firstly, you need to work out how much leave they've used, not including bank holidays. You then deduct this from the statutory leave amount. So say they're full-time, their statutory amount is 150 hours, but they've used 200 hours, they can't carry anything over. So if the amount they've used exceeds that statutory amount, they have no carryover. I'll go through some examples. So an employee works full-time, so 37.5 hours a week. They have a standard of 29 days annual leave entitlement, not including bank holidays. This totals 217.5 hours of annual leave. Say the employee has taken 2 weeks annual leave, so 75 hours, before they go off long-term sick. Let's say they go off sick in May. When they return to work in March, say the 1st of March, there is not enough time for them to use their remaining annual leave. So this is where we say they've not had the opportunity to take it, therefore carryover will apply in this case. You need to work out how much they've taken and deduct that from the 150 hours. So 150 hours minus the 75 hours taken means they have 75 hours carryover into the next year. Well, 18 months. Another example, let's say the employee is part-time. They work 22.5 hours a week. So they're classed as 0.6 whole-time equivalent. They have over 10 years service, so are entitled to 33 days annual leave pro rata, not including bank holidays. So in this case, that totals a standard of 148.5 hours. They have also taken 2 weeks annual leave, but as they are part-time, this is only 6 days, so this works out at 45 hours. Their statutory carryover amount is not 150 hours because they're part-time. It's not 0.6 of this. So their statutory amount is 90 hours. They've used 45 hours, deduct it from the statutory, so they can carry over 45 hours into the next leave year or 18 months. Please note, however, that where employees have not had opportunity to use their annual leave throughout the year, they may have had long-term sickness, which long-term sickness is over 3 weeks, but they may have only been off for 1 month in June. So in that case, we would say they have had opportunity to use their annual leave. They've had 11 months in that case, so that's where it can get tricky. So if you're ever not sure, just speak to HR. We'll run through that with you. Also, how we're advising to get carryover approved at present is through your divisional establishment control panels. So any carryover leave that has not been taken within that 18-month period, so by the 30th of September, 2 years ahead, they will lose it. So using annual leave whilst off on long-term sick. So employees can go away on holiday whilst on long-term sick, and they can either use this as annual leave or sick. This has changed from the last policy. We've got legal advice on this. So they don't need to use annual leave to cover this period because they're certified with a fit note or a medical certificate. So they are classed as unfit to work, whether they're at home or away. So employees must, however, contact their manager before they go on holiday and confirm the dates that they are away so that we know when they are unavailable during this period. Staff should confirm whether they want to take this period as a holiday and be recorded as annual leave or if they want it to be kept as sickness. And it should be recorded accordingly on health roster. If they choose to use this period as annual leave, please refer to the toolkit for a guide on how to do this, as you need to stop the sickness absence and then start the annual leave. And obviously, if they're still not fit after this period, you then need to restart the sickness again. So it needs to be all reflected correctly on health roster, and pay services need to be informed about this so they're paid correctly. Because it might be that during the sickness element, they might be on half pay or statutory sick pay, but obviously during any period of leave, it's full pay. In some cases, it might work out financially better for the staff to use annual leave when they're off sick, because they might be on half pay or SSP or no pay. So they might have a lot of annual leave to use, but be on no pay. And it might be in the benefit of both the member of staff and the department to allow them to use this sickness annual leave whilst they're off sick, because otherwise they could return to work and have a lot of leave and still not be there in the department because they'll be on annual leave. So just balance that up and obviously work that out with the employee so they're aware of this as well. So they don't have to be going on holiday to use their annual leave. But we can't do this when staff are on short-term sick. It's only during long-term sickness we can do this. Otherwise, like I mentioned before, it can mask sickness and health problems. And we don't allow sickness annual leave to be used when staff are off sick to prevent them moving on a stage. If they're on long-term, they've already triggered a stage. So where annual leave is taken during a period of long-term sickness, and it's shown on health roster as sick, then annual leave, then sick, Make sure you don't count the sicknesses as separate episodes. It's classed as one long period of sickness in terms of the triggers. So you can't say you've triggered stage 1 there and then stage 2. It's 1 in terms of trigger points. And like mentioned before, make sure you inform pay services. So if the employee is going on holiday whilst they're on long-term sickness, they must contact the manager before they go on holiday and then once they've returned. And it's important to determine once they've returned from the holiday if they are still to remain off sick or if they are returning to work. If the employee is still not fit to be at work during any periods of annual leave, they must still submit their fit notes and medical certificates. So pre-planned annual leave during long-term sickness. So where an employee has booked annual leave in advance before they're sick, so let's say they've booked a holiday and then they fall sick before the leave, they can still go on that holiday even if they're off long-term sick. They just need to inform you in advance and give at least 5 days notice before they go on that holiday. And as long as it's not it's not contradictory to the reason for their sickness. If the employee has not notified you whether they want to take it as annual leave or not, you should contact the employee to find out whether they want it as annual leave or sickness. They have the choice. So they can either take it as leave or they can cancel their annual leave and keep it as sickness, and they'll have that annual leave credited back. But they do need to be covered with a fit note. So if you have tried to reach the employee and they haven't contacted you before their annual leave, we assume in this circumstance that it will be classed as annual leave, so that will remain. If annual leave or a holiday is taken during a period of sickness absence, which is incompatible with the reason for the absence, or it may exacerbate their medical condition. A good example of this is somebody going on a skiing holiday with a broken leg, or it might be that they have COVID and they are wanting to go on holiday. Then in these circumstances, disciplinary action can be taken, and it may include dismissal. Sickness during annual leave. So if an employee falls sick whilst they're on holiday or a period of annual leave, they must contact their manager on day 1 of the sickness. So they need to notify you that they are now reporting as sick. And if they wish for any annual leave from this point to be classed as sickness. And where they've done this, their annual leave can be credited back. The period, however, must be covered by a doctor's fit note. So we don't accept self-certification forms in these circumstances. They have to get a medical certificate, and it might be that this is issued abroad, and then they have to send you a copy of this. So when they return to the UK, then they give you the original copy. So we won't allow annual leave to be credited back where they are off sick and they try and claim this retrospectively. It has to follow the normal reporting procedures at the time of the sickness. Otherwise, it will result in the annual leave not being reinstated. If you need any more information on annual leave, please refer to the Trust's annual leave policy and obviously speak to your HR advisor.